Hi, everybody. It's David from
Hi,
3Dmakeit.
I'm Greg.
We're both here,
We
and we're
are
both in our basements observing social distancing.
absolutely. Yeah. I've been surviving pretty well. How about you?
And thanks to you, yeah, yeah. It's an interesting thing being completely cut off. I guess you're not cut off from other people. We got Facebook and YouTube, but you don't see as many
Yeah,
people. And with my wife being sick, I don't see her hardly. So
that that's true.
yeah.
So far, everyone in my house is good. Um, Regular colds, no, none of the event stuff.
Yes, the event is it's a earth-changing thing, isn't it? Stuff won't be
Yeah,
the
it's
same.
it's pretty fascinating that countries are actually coordinating together and working together on this stuff.
Yeah, it's
So
it's cool
that's
to
good.
see. Hopefully we all pull it together.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's enough of that. Let's talk about 3D printing.
Yeah,
All
happy
right.
things.
You bet.
At least 3D printing makes
So,
me happy.
well, until something breaks and makes you mad. So,
Yeah, anytime I have one thing broken on any printer, it's like they're all broken. And
yeah,
I can't print until I fix the one thing. I don't know about you, but
yeah. Oh, I know. It's like, yeah, I had two down, and I was like, ah. But I think you print more continuously than
yeah.
I.
Usually I got something going every day. I've been a little lax for the last day or two. I think the last thing I printed was the big thing was the Master Sword.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
That
was the
was
last big thing, and
yeah. That's a pretty good one.
that was thanks to a coworker. I saw his, and I'm like, I gotta have one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah. Um, yeah. Other than that, I got the final video out for the Legend.
awesome. Yeah, it
So
was a
that
good one. I liked it.
I'm glad that that's out of the way, and now I can focus on decent 3D printing stuff.
Other things.
Yes.
I think we can safely say with some certainty that if you're looking to buy a $300 printer, buy an
Do
Ender
not
3,
buy.
right?
Yeah, buy an Ender 3. Yes, absolutely.
Don't buy a blue
Or
or a
or or maybe a mini Prusa.
yeah. They're close
That's
in the price
that's
range.
that's a little bit more expensive, but that might be the other one to buy. But if you want to save as many pennies as possible and get the best one possible, the Ender for sure.
Yeah, I mean the Ender gives you the build volume, and you can't really beat that price. Well, lots of people are trying. I
Yeah.
seriously
Hey,
consider the any any cubic. Oh, we got. Oh, hey Raymond.
Raymond's here. I
Yay,
just thought I'd
Raymond.
say hi, Ray.
My
Call him
volume is
out.
very low. All I can do is zoom in. I think 1 sec. I'll see if I can get it higher.
How do I sound, Raymond? Okay.
Is that any better? I moved it to my
There's a
face.
bit of a delay, so he'll
Yeah,
he'll get that in a second.
but the Anycubic Zero, I would consider that one too. Except you lose the heat bed, but
Yeah.
I've been very happy with, and I know you have with your Chiron, and I've been happy with the Predator. So the Anycubic stuff is another option.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very decent printers for the price for sure. Um, and then I picked up the other day a a, it came about to me kind of through an acquaintance and whatnot, and he said, "Hey, I have this old MakerBot replicator that's not working. Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I figured out what was wrong with it and set it up, and it prints without a heated bed and everything, but it prints really quite well. I was very surprised with the quality coming off of it, and so I've set it up so my daughter can slice on a regular basis on it. There's not a lot of finicky things you got to do to it. It was just an okay printer. It runs Sailfish, so unfortunately it doesn't work with Octoprint and whatnot. Um, the board that it has in it can't be upgraded to Marlin. So if I do want to change it, I'm going to have to change the guts, which it's more of a wiring pain on that one, just because it has some proprietary plugs. But other than that, it would be a quick update, I think.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on MakerBot is twofold. We'll talk about their product, then we'll talk about software in a second. But like, their printers print, they do print well, but you get very, very locked in, right? You have to use their slicer. For the most part, on some of their printers, you're even stuck to having to print a raft. Some of their printers don't print without a raft, right? So,
Yeah.
and the cost. I have a hard time spending $1,500 on a printer that has like a 150 millimeter by 200 millimeter build volume.
Hey, it was free, so I'm not gonna.
That's the, the right
What can I
price.
say?
Right price
So
for
it's the right
MakerBot.
price, and I've got the plug-in working in it, and my daughter can slice and Kira, so I'm not going to complain too much. She's liking it. She's printed a number of things, so it's all
So
good.
yeah, I mean that's awesome. I, I'm gonna jump to a side topic. Dun
Sure.
dun dun. But it's a good side topic. So let me capture my Chrome here. And let's see here. You're in there, I'm in there. Transition. Whoa. Okay. So, ready? Side topic. Thingiverse. I have typed in Thingiverse right now into the live stream.
Huh.
And we're waiting. We're waiting.
Oh yeah,
And we're
it's
waiting.
their new look.
And we're
I
waiting.
actually have not seen it yet, so
I encourage you to load it up and wait 3 seconds to 20 for it to load. So I finally got it loaded here. But the first thing is you'll notice that there's ads in it. Every, probably 10 blocks or so, they throw an advertisement widget in. The other bone of contention is if you were to look for direct drive or something similar. So I'll do a search and I'm waiting, right? So the search is super slow. The website is still super slow. We got ads in there now, and when I typed in direct drive, the search results aren't even close to anything direct drive. And
oh man,
lots of people, I'm just going to cut us back here. Lots of people have been saying, not a big deal. It'll get better. This is my MakerBot opinion right now. Our community, the 3D printer community in general, is full of programmers, full of them. And every single programmer that goes to this site is going to go, well, that's not streamlined in any way. And now, even though we're not directly paying for it, we've got ad revenue that they're generating off of Thingiverse. So before I could understand hey guys, it's free. Don't worry about it, right? But
right?
now that we're paying for it, I think that there needs to, and again, personally, I haven't paid for it. It's the ad revenue, but that is
Yeah,
paying for it. And
it is.
we deserve a better experience off of that platform because every time it goes down and comes back up, they say it's going to get better. This is
Well,
the
they got to
best.
stop running it on Raspberry Pis and start actually putting it into like Azure or some sort of backend service somewhere, because right now, I mean, that's not not great. So Yeah.
It's in an age of, I guess we do live in the digital age, right? But we don't deserve slow search results, and lots of people are saying, "Hey, we can just move to the Google search feature." Yeah, but why would I want to use Google search on the site when I want to go to the site, search for a model specifically, like the direct drive I just used, and have it come up? So
Right.
Raymond says he's got a Mamarubot Mars 2 torn apart on his table right now. I really like Mamarubot printers. They're among my favorite.
Well, yeah, I don't have one here. We both had a hand at upgrading the extruders on the SX 4. So
Yeah, we made some upgrades to that where we designed that new hot end carriage and fusion and played with some existing designs until we got something that actually worked, and now they work great.
yeah, they do. We were pumping out brackets like crazy on those.
Yeah, let's see. I might be able to bring up the fusion and show that off a bit too here.
Sure.
Maybe it might crash the video stream too. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I'll while you're bringing it up, I'll describe what it is. So, um, we work for a school district, and they're installing new projectors, and each projector, to simplify the wiring, they've gone with HDMI extenders that run over Cat5 and USB extenders that run out over Cat5. So David designed a bracket that allows us to clip in these extenders mounted in the ceiling just above the teacher's workstation. So um, there's less wires running up the wall, and it simplifies the install for the company that's doing the install. So we had to print 400
Yeah,
brackets.
that was the a number. It'll be more because they broke a few.
Yeah, so I think we have a handful more to print. And now with all the schools being out and whatnot, we'll see. They may step up their installation uh, um, depending on what's allowed and not allowed coming up with the event happening. So,
Yeah, and we can't really comment too much on anything that way because of VoIP. So that's pretty much
yeah,
all we're gonna say.
yeah. So
Um,
there's the bracket.
Hold on, I haven't got it up yet. I gotta
Oh, okay,
switch this window thingy.
one sec.
Fusion. Okay.
There.
And it's Gigantor. One sec. There. Sorry, we're kind of getting the screen set up here. There. Now, here is the Fusion file. So it's a really simple bracket. There's not a lot. I say
You're
simple.
showing me. There you go.
No, it's showing them. It just hasn't transitioned yet. Anyway, the bracket itself is fairly simple. It started from a very, very basic sketch, which let's see if we can go here and then here. And let's get the body. So it originally looked like this. This amorphous blob. And then basically our brackets hold in these extenders between the two towers. And then if we show you the end product, Greg and I, shall we say, prettied the crap out of this thing.
Yeah.
So we've got fillets. We've streamlined all of our curves and edges so that they can't snap off. We've smoothed out our zip tie covers. And most importantly, we stamped it with 3Dmakeit. So we will probably be doing a little bit about Fusion and some live streams, but I mean, Lars pretty much his name's Lars, right?
There's Lars, and then
Yeah,
there's Brad.
there's two
Brad
of
is
them.
actually yeah, Brad is really good too. They both they both have really good streams. Brad does one Tuesdays and Thursdays. He does it live, and yeah, he does some really good stuff with his stream that he does.
Yeah, for sure. And like, it's not that we won't show our work in Fusion. It's just some other, I guess there's what I would call
There's
professionals,
professionals.
right? We are professional nerds. That's our existence. But
Yeah.
let's just, so now we talked about Fusion. The next thing that I do want to talk about a little bit is the new release of Marlin. So we're at 2.0.5.1. Wow, that's a lot of points in there.
Yeah. They they did quite a few different tweaks to some of the features that they added. They just kind of continued to kind of improve them.
Yeah,
So one of them is my next video, so I'll be going over that, and then actually it's pretty interesting how they added the feature, and then they they optimized the feature with just a variety. Like I think we went through 3 point releases, and then the feature basically got a whole bunch of more easier to understand settings, which is really nice.
yeah,
So they are really focused on optimizing the features that are there. So that's great. I'm really happy to see it maturing as much as it has in the short time since it went from the pre-release, which everyone was using, to now the stable release. So
yeah. I mean, and they're doing a lot of things to streamline not only the programming experience in it, but how big the download is too. And one of the
yes,
biggest changes that they have done, I guess you could say it's a big change. It's actually not that big. People just need to read the file, I guess. We talk about a lot about Marlin when we're looking and doing some of our videos here. And we reference the example folder a lot. So here I'm in VS Code. I'm in Marlin 2.0x folder, config. And instead of the examples being in that file now, we have a README, and all you have to do is go to the website in the README. And I'm not going to read it out because it's really big and long, and I don't think we have to. But all you have to do is go through that website, and it will download the zip with the example files that we like to see and use. The other big
yeah,
change too is the board support. Like it's growing and growing. The stepper driver support is growing and
yeah.
growing. So I mean, but I just wanted to mention those examples because we get a lot of questions um, on particular the example files during our live stream there, or not live stream, our Marlin video. So
One of the latest questions we had, someone was asking um, why we don't download the Marlin from, you know, the manufacturer's site.
yeah,
And
it's a good question.
I thought maybe we could, you could address it, and then I'll address it, and then we'll probably hopefully cover all the possibilities.
It shall be addressed. Um, well, the reason that I don't use the manufacturer specific one is because, well, one, when the 32-bit boards first came out, there wasn't a lot of support even from the manufacturers, but the actual build of Marlin has better support for drivers and boards than often the 1 or 2 month old manufacturer versions. So that's probably the
Yeah,
biggest reason is Marlin 2.0 point whatever X we're on. The most current build has the most current information for you to build your printer. Now that's not to say there hasn't been bugs in the current build, but
that's
that's
true.
why we do use, like for me, I will always grab from Marlin, do my build. But that being said, if you're not a programmer, or you have very little experience with VS Code, I encourage you to watch our VS Code videos for one.
Yeah.
But
And
two, you'll get more comfortable as you go on, and there's nothing wrong with starting
yeah.
with them. So that's me.
And I'm not a programmer. David can attest to that. I'm I understand, the concepts, but I can't build something from scratch. So when I first got into Marlin, it was a little bit intimidating, right? Because you see all this code and you get a little overwhelmed. But really, there's only a handful of spots you even need to change,
Mm-hmm.
right? And once you learn, the spots that you need for your printer, all of a sudden that even goes even smaller because you really only have your driver settings. Once you've got your level settings, if you're doing a BL Touch or something, those are going to transfer to every version of Marlin that you have. You just have to put the settings in.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them get rearranged as they've improved the M851 command, for example, and so now you can do multiple settings right from the command line, whereas you couldn't do that previously. You could only set your one offset.
Mm-hmm.
So they've done various things there. But what I do, and I think Dave does something similar, is I'll download, like you said, whatever the latest version is. Then I'll open my old config file and the new config file in VS Code side by side, and then I'll go through and I'll make sure that all my settings are transferred over
Mm-hmm.
that I like, and then I know it's going to work with my printer, and then I can tweak from there on the newer versions. And I like doing that rather than just copying the old config over,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
there's so many good notes that get improved on the different features, or if a new feature is added, it will still be there once you transfer it over. So that's the way I like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're not getting the outdated stuff, like David said. Like if you go to and just download the Big Tree Tech, whatever, well, first of all, it's a generic board, and they don't know if you have two Z steppers or two Y steppers or some other strange configuration.
Yeah,
Um,
the only
they,
exception to that one is the E3. That one is specifically designed for the Ender 3, so that firmware,
right.
if you don't want to do any work, you can do it.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But if you have any other printer that you are going to throw an SKR in and do an upgrade to go from 8 to 32, there might be a little more work in it
Mm-hmm.
for you. And it's better to have the canonical Marlin rather than some offshoot that you hopefully any additions they add into it do get adopted by the main tree of Marlin, but you don't know that for sure, so it's better to stick with the
Yeah,
main one.
the fresh build, and a good example of that is the Mamoru bot. I use that as an example for Marlin because a lot of people don't realize that if your printer, so the Mamoru bot is my example, the SX4, comes with Marlin, by law, by copyright law, they have to give you that Marlin, the build that's on that printer. So when I wanted to rebuild my Marlin for the SX4, I didn't really want to like pull through all the acceleration settings and stuff off the EEPROM. I wanted to see what it was that they were configuring. So I sent them an email. They threw the config files back at me. And those are really the only ones they have to give you is the config and config advanced. And from that,
Yep.
we were rocking. It was easy. And for any vanilla build of Marlin too, the things that you really want to make sure that if you're just gonna build your printer, is build volume,
Yep.
acceleration, right? And then like Greg said, bed leveling. So if you have an ABL sensor, you're gonna want to set those things up. at the very basic, once you get those set up, your printer will print. Will it print right? No. Because you'll still have to tune
There's
your
going to
E
be
steps
tweaking.
and everything else. But at a bare minimum, that's the settings that you can do in Marlin just to get it on the board. And then you can actually tweak all of the other stuff through EEPROM, through Octoprint or Pronterface, or even a worse way would be write the G code and save it on an SD card. But you could do it.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely, and it once you've done it once or twice, and you're not going to break anything.
No.
Well, unless I guess you technically could break anything, but if you're start with either the factory config that hopefully the manufacturer has on their website, and you bring that into the new Marlin, you've got a good base to start on.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't break anything at that point.
No, and I think that's that's a good point and a really good point for us to diverge as well from our Marlin talk. Is Marlin, generally speaking, you won't break any hardware. You could cook your board if you flashed the wrong bootloader and stuff, but all the boards have bootloaders now. So, Greg got a
Yeah.
new toy. Let's talk about your new toy.
Yes. Well, it's a new toy, but I'm not sure what to do with it yet. So I spent the money, and I got it says Hermes, but it's actually the Hermea, and I've been debating on what printer to put it on. We have a printer that I'm working on with my kids. We're nicknaming him Oscar because we're kind of building him out of recycled parts. And not sure if I should put it on Oscar. Not sure if I should put it on something else. I was actually talking with Raymond about some extrusion that Spool had and I was thinking of buying some of that and maybe doing something custom. But yeah, I'm looking for ideas of where to put it, because I'd like to put it somewhere, and just haven't made a solid decision yet. Anyway,
I think you should put it on the cheapest printer you own.
well, I could put it. I've got a couple of Legends.
Now, those are pretty cheap. I don't know. You can't get much cheaper than that. Actually, they weren't that cheap. They're just cheap.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. So I guess the other thing we're going to start showcasing a little bit more on the channel is CNC and CNC milling and CNC working. We are fortunate to have access, usually, to a plethora of CNC machines as well. I ordered a CNC 3018 to get something affordable and relatable that we can actually, if people want to follow along in that process, it's something that's not going to break the bank. I think it's, I forget, I think I paid $222 Canadian for my CNC 18 Pro, and it comes with Gerbil support, and I run it from a Raspberry Pi. So all in all, it's a cool project that we'll start diving into more. We'll have a bit of a series going on it on the channel here too. But and I know Greg is also passionate about.
I really, so I want to get right now. There is a CNC machine at our work that doesn't get used. It was someone that knew how to use it retired, and then they were replaced by someone who didn't want to use it, and then they were replaced by someone who'd like to use it but doesn't have the experience using it. So I'm going to, and I think David will help out too, go over and give some assistance and whatnot, and then we'll take the stuff that they did to the vacuum table off. They put screws in it and glue and stuff, so we got to clean that up. But it is it is a probably a $70,000-$80,000 CNC machine. Like this thing
Easily.
is
Yeah.
probably what 10 feet by 20 feet.
At least, and clearly that's not the one that we're going to be having you follow along on.
No,
It
but
would
that's
fill your
that.
2-car garage easily.
But that's one, and well, that one I'm going to be doing some designs for my house, and I'm going to be doing them in Fusion to build some cabinets that will be cut on there at some point.
Yep, and that
So
stuff
so
will show for sure.
yeah, and so I'm going to be learning Fusion. David has delved into Fusion, which I think this is a good transition into some of the other uh, slicing in Fusion, and
Mm.
that a few of other channels have covered. But we could just quickly talk about it because you were actually delving into the CNC side of that,
Mm.
which is in the same area that the 3D slicing is in Fusion now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's so if you're an old user of Fusion, and I don't mean old in age, I mean from maybe a year ago, I think it was, they changed the workspace name. So it used to be called Cam in Fusion in the drop down. Now they just call it Manufacturer. But if you're in the manufacturer portion of Fusion, you can bring your models that you made in the sketch or the design, you can pop them in, and then from there you can either do subtractive manufacturing, which is CNC milling and that kind of thing, or it's been around for a bit and people are kind of just starting to talk about it, but the additive manufacturing, and there's support for, let's call them all the mainstream printers. So like the Ender 3's in there, the Prusa is in there. So there are printers that are in there ready to go. If it's not in there, it's fairly straightforward, and it's just like setting up any other slicer. So you need your build volume. And if you have your build volume set up, then it's really your extruder and hot end you got to worry about. And once you get all those settings in, Fusion will slice it and send it. The one thing that I have seen in Fusion is that the support generation is kind of funky. um, it gets
Yeah,
weird.
I've heard that too.
And then I've also seen where it doesn't calculate the corners as well. So like if you have a angled corner, it it might not produce the dimensions accurately. But it is there. They're going to improve it. It's an Autodesk thing, and I know that's controversy in itself because lots of people lost their hobby licenses recently and couldn't
I
get them
think that a
back.
lot of them got them back.
I think about 50-50 because there's still a lot of, and maybe the people that don't have them back haven't pursued, the proper method to apply for them back, because you just have to go to
Maybe.
the website and say, "Yep, I'm a hobbyist," and here we go. So, but yeah, I mean, that's Fusion and the manufacturing uh, workspace in a nutshell, anyway. So, I guess talking about that, we can really quickly mention um, the event again. Dun dun
Okay.
dun. This event of isolation that we all have right now, and I know it's hard on mental health and it's hard on people. We all go stir crazy if we can't get out. But one thing that we will offer, and I'm offering it in 2 locations. Whoa! But we I, my vision is to come up with a few digital workshops for everybody. So we're going to do some stuff on Marlin in a digital workshop, auto bed leveling, and that kind of stuff. So uh, we'll have a few live stream events where we can all get together, and hopefully it might look like a Zoom chat kind of thing where we can get more. Obviously, it would be more than just 2 of us talking back and forth, and logistically, we'll talk about it to make it work. But um, we'll get some more digitally social events, shall we say, together, so that we can all kind of stave off this cabin fever that we're all starting to feel.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had another workshop that we were doing that was has been put off. It was a live one for staff and teachers, and so unfortunately, that one, with everything going on, had to be delayed. It just there's no way
No safe way to
with
do it.
everything happening.
Yep.
So it'll go ahead at some point. They did actually request a digital version of it,
Hmm.
but we haven't really worked out what that would look like. How do we get them their printers and then do a virtual or maybe a live stream build
Yeah.
so that everyone can see it? We haven't figured that out. So
You mean we
that'll
just
be a
can't leave
future
them
thing.
out on the doorstep and hope the right people take them?
But we could.
That could be
I don't
fun.
think they'd be too happy. Of course,
um,
I might have 26 enders at home at that point.
well, hey, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. You could share one or two. Um, and just kind of on the same top. Oh, Greg, you okay?
Yeah, I'm
Greg's
good.
okay. Okay. Um, kind of on the same topic, and I know it's Canada and Canadians and Albertans. We all have, shall we say, big hearts, and we want to do all we can right now in the event to help. And we've all seen stories from Italy, right, where they printed the valve ventilators, and for their hospitals that couldn't get them. But there's a point that I think we need to make, and it's just a simple point. And the first is none of us are doctors. We none of us. Okay, I shouldn't say none of us. Maybe somebody in the community here is a doctor and can give better direction. But we have to remember that 3D printing, especially at the FDM, 3D printing home version printers that we all have, are layer manufacturing devices, which means unless you're going to post process the darndest out of that part you print, there are going to be layer lines in it and little grooves and places that you can't clean or disinfect. And I think it's important to remember that if you're printing stuff for yourself right now, one, don't fall into a false sense of security thinking that a 3D printed filtering mask will do as good as a surgical, I forget the 3M version of the mask they're actually selling, but don't
Yeah.
don't think that it will do as good. It's a false sense of security, and I I just want to get that point out there because I don't want to see people like running around the streets and self-made Darth Vader isolators and
If if you use it once, that's one thing, but don't expect to use it over and over because in order to properly sanitize them, I mean, you could try soaking them in bleach, but that might just destroy it.
yeah, the
And
part will.
and in order to properly sanitize anything, you have to raise the temperature enough, and then it's going to melt.
Yep.
So unless you're printing it out of like nylon or something that can
Yeah.
handle a high temperature, it's not a good idea. It's not injected molded. Even though the stuff that they use for ventilators and whatnot, it's single use.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Use it for
now
that patient, throw it
what
away.
once it's been used on that patient, if they pull it out of that patient, they're not putting it back in. They're going to get a new one that's sterile and put it in.
Yeah.
So just keep in mind that yeah, it's face shields and whatnot. I mean that's one thing, but anything that's even then it's the surfaces and whatnot are
Mm-hmm.
hard to keep clean. So
And I think uh, the biggest takeaway would be using the Prusa example. So Joseph Prusa went to the health ministry in the Czech Republic there, where he's from, and he actually met with them and developed a face shield that they use. And he has, I think it's 1/3. I have to read the article again, but there's 1/3 of the Prusa factory right now that's producing the face shield, which is fairly simple. It's two 3D printed parts with a PET shield part, but again,
yeah.
they're only single use, so they're throwing them away right away. Um,
The other thing they were doing was they retooled their chemical area that they they make their resins and stuff, then they are retooled it to do hand sanitizer. And I've even heard other breweries in Calgary and whatnot. They are retooling to make ethanol to make hand sanitizer, and they even made some labels up so that you can pre-made so no one has to design them, and you literally can it in beer cans, and then people can take it home, open it up, and put it in a reusable container. So it's
Hmm.
pretty cool.
And I mean, we're going to see industry doing that, but again, like we're not professionals in the health care system, but we are, shall we say, 3D printer enthusiasts slash crazy people slash kind of professional at 3D printing slash awesome people. I had to throw that last part in, but I think the point is don't be lulled into safety from something that's manufactured in a way that doesn't have proper seals on your printer. We all want to stay safe. One of the best things you can print is barriers, right? Print a finger to use on a ATM machine, something that you can open a door with without grabbing the handle, and then throw them away after you're done using them. Like that's a good
Yeah.
use for your 3D printer right now. So, but I think that's about all we have to say on the event.
Absolutely.
So, I know we have Ray's in the chat, but I don't know if I haven't seen anybody else, but that's
That's all right.
okay, right? If so, we're probably getting pretty
This
close
was
to
this is a
wrapping up.
little impromptu, a little short notice. So it's nice that Raymond showed up. Hopefully, some other people watch us later, and then we can try to give a little more heads up on a live stream, and maybe not do it so late at night because um, late at night is not great. I know for the Eastern Seaboard and whatnot because everyone's already winding down at that time. So maybe we'll try to do an afternoon one at some point.
Yeah, for sure, and we won't hijack the 7 o'clock spot on Saturdays usually because we have two good friends in Calgary that like to use that time. So.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so that's all we got. If you have questions that you want us to go through, you can pop them down in the comments. We do check those quite regularly here. You guys have been awesome if you're watching and if you've made it till the end. Even if you didn't make it to the end, you're awesome. So yeah, have a good one.
Thanks for coming, and see you next time.